Hi, Tim. Thank you very much for the interview today.
Thank you. I'm really excited.
Tim Hughes is the author of the best-selling Social Selling Techniques to Influence Buyers and Changemakers, published in 2016 and available on Amazon. Tim co-founded with his friend and colleague Adam Gray, DLA Ignite in 2016 in London. DLA enables companies' use of social media within their organizations and has associates all around the world, including Peru, where I am their contact person. I met Tim 1 year ago, just before COVID, through a common LinkedIn contact, Alexander Lowe, and decided to join DLA since then, whose experts have been sharing their knowledge with me and where I'm being mentored by co-founder Adam Gray. Tim, thanks for your time. I feel very glad to talk to you as the author of a best-selling book, which does not happen very often to one. I am actually interested in sharing with my followers, which are mainly people involved in legal services, some of the questions that the reading of your book have triggered on me.
Yeah. I'm really excited to talk to you about it. I think it's so timely with the pandemic. Things have changed so much. People have moved online that it's so applicable for organizations now to be talking about social. So thank you.
Thank you, Tim. So my first question is, you state at the very beginning of your book that social media has changed the world. Can you mention some of the arguments that support this?
Yes, social media has changed society and it's changed the way that we do business. When I wrote the book, I was kind of writing for some future state that we've now kind of, in effect, moved through because of the pandemic has accelerated. So many people are now online. And more importantly, they're not just online, they're comfortable being online. And, you know, what we see in the UK, you know, what people are saying on Twitter is discussed on the news. You know, before we go and see anybody, I mean, if someone's watching this, what they're likely to do is look me up on social media. You know, 20 years ago, we couldn't do that. And so social media is now, it's omnipresent in the way that we live and the way that we work.
Okay. And Tim, tell us about the book and its aim. It was written 2016 before COVID, and the virus has changed the way how we interact, how we sell, how we do networking, how we do businesses. Is the book still in place despite COVID-19, Tim?
Yeah, I think it's even more relevant. Funnily enough, I actually wrote the book. My father has dementia and Alzheimer's, and I actually wrote the book just so that he could see that his son had achieved something. And all I wanted to do was probably just to sell one copy. And it's gone on to sell over 5,500 copies, which is a business book. It's just awesome. I mean, what we've seen over the last 12 months is an acceleration of the move of people online. And we've seen, you know, in certain places and certain countries, a digital divide, where certainly in this country, the only way that you can now access government facilities is being online. They don't take, you know, we don't have telephone access. They just expect you to be able to access things through the iPad. And with COVID, you know, we've had children educated at home again. People have needed to have access to iPads and PCs to get access to education. So there's been a massive acceleration online in terms of society. From a business perspective, we're seeing this even more so. You know, there's now 55% of the world's population on social media, active on social media. When you've got buyer teams, I mean, you know, some people say, yes, but I know the finance director of this company isn't on social media. Well, that may be the case, but buyer teams are, you know, are of 10 people. I'm working with a supply chain company where they tell me that 100 people in an organization can make a decision. And while one person may not be on social media, the other 9 or the other 99 are. and the people that are making decisions, you know, my partner has 2 millennials as sons, and one of them is nearly 30. The one who's 26, you know, his life, everything is through his mobile phone. It's accessed through mobile. Everything is run through an app. When he bought a flat 4 years ago, he bought his mortgage through an app. You know, everything is driven through apps. And the way that society works now in the UK, because of COVID, you can't ring up and book to go in a restaurant. You have to do it through an app, and it's completely changed, and it's made people comfortable using mobile, and it's made people comfortable using social media, and that's the way we live today. And if you're not on social media and not on mobile, you won't get access to you won't get access to society, and that's the way it is. You may not like it, but that is the way it is.
Okay, and what do you think are the pillars of social selling, or what do you consider that are the pillars of social selling, Tim?
So we explain to people there's 3 things that they need to do. The first thing is that you need to have a buyer-centric profile. So you've got to remember that when somebody checks you out on social media, they will look at you and work out they will decide what they think about you. So they will decide based on your social media profile whether they think you're funny, whether they think you're boring, whether they think you're clever, whether they think you're stupid. And you have no control about that unless you're actually controlling your presence on social media. And you've got to remember that at the moment, the seller isn't in control of the process, it's the buyer. You know, the buyer is using a mobile phone to go online and decide what it is and who they want to shortlist and who they want to buy. So they're coming onto social, and they're jumping to conclusions about who you are, what you do, and what your firm is like. To give you an example, there's a brewery in Scotland that is in the process of going ballistic. It's going ballistic on Twitter as we speak, because what people are doing is that they're jumping to conclusion what the culture is like in that organization, and for that brewery, it's not looking very good, because people are reading what's being said, and they're jumping to conclusions about it. So as a person, as an organization, you have to control your narrative online. But you've also got to remember that people aren't interested in your company, they're interested in you, people by people. So what they're looking for is they're looking for the human element. So just going online and saying, buy our product because it's great, everybody does that. So you're not differentiated, you're differentiated by being human. So your buyer-centric profile is about you, your experiences, because that's your unique. The second thing is you need a network. So you need to take all of your analog networks. So next to my desk here, I have this big pile of business cards. And what you need to do is you need to take that and you need to put it online. You need to connect all the people on your business cards, or your prospects or your customers, and you need to move that territory or that network and have it available in digital. The third thing you need is content. And the thing about content is the fact that we're not interested in corporate content. Buyers are on social media to be social. They're not interested in having corporate messages stuffed down their throats. In fact, we've done research and actually shows it actually has a negative impact. People see it badly. They see you as old-fashioned. They see you as as not a human-based company. So you need to create your own content, and your content needs to be authentic and it comes from yourself. And one of the things that we do is that we teach people how to do that. So we teach people how to have buyer-centric profiles. We teach people how to connect to people so that they will connect. And we teach people to create content and actually start building their digital muscles to enable them to engage with the modern buyer and to be seen as the experts that they are.
I love the expression digital muscles. Really, it's a beautiful expression. I just want to ask you about the profile. What do you think about a professional profile? what would you say? What would you suggest to people that want to look professional or that are on LinkedIn because of their job?
I think that I think there's a bit of a misnomer about it. So, I mean, if I said to you, I can drive to your house, pick you up, and I can drive you to a place where there's prospects. They're all standing around in a room. All you have to do is go up and talk to them. And you can spend all day there. There's no time limit. So it's really just about how much you talk to them. Now, would you go into that room and go, "Hi, everybody, it's Tim Hughes here. I've got these amazing legal services. There's 30% off. Would you do that?" You wouldn't. Because what would happen is that someone would go, "There's a nutter here. Security, take him away." You wouldn't. You would go and get a cup of tea or a cup of coffee. You would go to the person and say, "So, have you traveled far today?" "Oh, no." "Oh, well, where do you live?" "Oh, and you would have a conversation. And this is the mistake that people make. They think that what they have to do is to walk onto social media and immediately say, "Buy my product because it's great and we've got 30% off." But you wouldn't do that in a networking meeting. So why would you do it on social media? What people seem to think is that they need to turn up to a social media and do what they've been doing all for the last 20 years, which is basically going and shouting and saying, "Buy my product." That's not how it works. It works just like a networking meeting where you go in, you have conversations with people, you build relationships with people. And that's the fundamental difference. Now, when you go to a networking meeting, you will understand and feel comfortable with the level of professionalism that you have. And I totally understand that. But you've also got to remember that if there's 750 million people on LinkedIn. If you were the same as everybody else, what differentiates you? And what people are looking for, if you walk into the room and go, and you're acting like a corporate robot, and you use your personality. You use your humanity. You use your empathy. If you go up to somebody and they say, I had a terrible time today. I drove over a dog and I had to set and pick it up, and you'd say, "Oh, that's really terrible," and you'd be really empathetic and is there anything that I can do? But you wouldn't just be corporate and say, "That is really interesting. I am very sorry. Here is a brochure." You wouldn't do that. And so, and you shouldn't be doing that on social. So you should be yourself. If you look at any of the people related to DLA Ignite, what you see in their profiles are themselves. You see a human element. Now, my summary title, for example, someone said to me, I'm a salesman, I need a really salesy summary title. And I said, well, I have the most salesy summary title there is, because mine closes business. And that's the difference between, are we doing something because we think it's expected of us, or are we doing something because it actually helps us? Every single key depression that we make on social should be connected to revenue, profit, EBITDA. If we're doing social and we're not able to say how much revenue or profit we're getting, we're not doing it right. Every business leader today needs to be able to say, they need to go to the board. If there's any board members watching, you need to ask this question: how much revenue are we getting from social media? And what we need to hear is not ifs or buts. We need to understand exactly a dollar or whatever currency you use figure. And if they're not using it, they're not doing it. And probably social media is a cost to your business. As I say, every single key depression, it's about how we're going to connect that to money. This isn't fluffy, having a game stuff on social media. This is real business. Sorry, I went on a bit, Lorena.
No, thank you. Thank you. Look, this is the book. I have your book. And
I got one as well.
Also. Yeah, I can imagine. I love printed books, so I bought it again on print. And the title,
because it's got little yellow things in it.
These are I've worked on it, you know, so it's like my manual today. So I
Perfect.
work, I write the book on the book, I make notes, and yes, I was preparing this interview too. So and then this question came to my mind. The title is Social Selling Techniques to Influence Buyers and Change Makers. Could you please define what is a buyer for you, or how do you interpret, or how do you read a buyer in your book, how you present the buyer in your book, and then what's a change maker?
Okay. A buyer really is somebody that is buying things, but the point is that we buy differently. You know, we go to our mobiles. You know, we're just opening up here in the UK, and there's certain countries you can go to and certain countries you can't. And I said to my partner, we were sitting in a cafe, I said, why don't we go to Iceland for the weekend? And she said, oh yeah, that's a good idea. Okay. And I said, well, you look at the Airbnbs and I'll look at the flights. And we just get our mobiles out, and and that's the natural way to buy. And if you think about the fact that within a buying team, there will be people in there that will be probably under 30 or at least under 40, going to the internet and searching is the first place you go. You know, if I want to buy anything, I'll go to Google, or I'll go to the Amazon or wherever the site is, or I'll go to social media to look it up. This is what we do. And that's really the difference in the way that the buying is being done now. A change maker is an interesting one. I actually used some research from Google around the change maker. Traditionally in sales, there will be somebody that will be called sometimes they're called a champion, but they're also often called an internal salesperson. So they're the person internally to the people that you're selling to that is saying that ultimately they're going to champion you, or ultimately they're hoping to buy you. The change maker is different. The change maker grew up in a different world to what I grew up in. We've had text messaging now for 30 years. So people under the age of, certainly under the age of 40 are used to texting, but they grew up in a different society to me, because when I was at school, if I didn't know the answer to a problem at school, I just had to go into the next day and ask the question of the teacher. They grew up in a society where if you didn't know the answer, you text the teacher. You were able to say, I don't understand this. And you were able to text people in authority around the way that you and ask questions. So change makers are for a start, they're digital savvy, but in a way they will ask questions of their network, just the same as they grew up asking questions of a teacher. So if they want to buy something, where do I get legal services? They'll ask their network, where will I buy legal services? And then they will get referrals. I see this a lot on Facebook and things where people say, I'm looking to buy these 3 cars. I'm looking to buy a BMW, an Audi, and a Mercedes. What do you think? And then they say, well, where should I buy it from? And so, you know, they're using their network as a way of coming up and coming up with shortlists. So crowdsourcing the ideas. The other thing about a change maker is that traditionally your internal salesperson would support you. What a change maker wants to do, they're generally under the age of 40, probably under the age of 30. And what they will do is that they don't care about the solution, they care about the answer. So they will pick the best solution based on their own personal win. And the personal win of a person in the 30s and 40s is usually to get their next job or their next career move. And what they want to do is they want to do things for the company that's going to make sure that they get their career win, but they won't necessarily care on the product or service. Now, what that means is when you meet a change maker, what they will do is that you will have a meeting and it will probably be terrible. They will tear you apart. And it's not about you or your slides or whatever. It's because what they're doing is that they're testing you to see whether you are trusted as a person that they can take forward as the recommendation for the solution or service. It's a really interesting change in the way that people buy, and that's really come about from the enablement of digital and social and the changes that we've seen in society through that.
And getting back to the book, how would you apply your phrase, a social seller is a helper, to lawyers, Tim, to lawyers?
Yeah, I think it's I think it's really good. You know, all the way through sales, we've tried to help people, and we sell because we know what we sell is going to make people's lives better, or they're going to be more efficient. And all the time that we've worked in a networking environment where we were doing things face to face, we would probably go to our contacts and we may refer people to them, but we were always looking out for them, and we were always seeing that they were and we were supporting them in their business, because if we support them in their business, they're probably going to put more business our way. It's the same thing on social, but what you're able to do is do it at scale. I mean, if you think about from a networking perspective, how many people do we really know? 10, 20, 30, maybe 50 people. On a social network, we can turn that into thousands.
Yeah.
So and you got to remember that if you're not only do you know people, but they know you. I get people coming to me saying, I had loads of people. It was my birthday last week, and I had people coming to me and who I didn't know. And they said, "Oh, Tim, happy birthday." And I said, "Oh, thanks very much. I really appreciate it." He said, "Yeah, your content really helps me." Does it? I don't even know who you are. Oh, yeah, I'm using it all the time in my sales thing. Are you? Now, it's the thing about a social network and having a large and varied network, which is what we need, is the fact that we're influencing more people than we could do when it was face to face. And what lawyers can do is they can use their old networking skills, but at scale. And this is how they can just help people like they've always done. And this is how a social seller is a helper. And that's how I think it's applicable to lawyers.
And how do you relate what you just mentioned with the term community in LinkedIn or on social media, on social platforms?
I think that communities are really interesting. I mean, if you think about communities, you know, the classic community is one of football. You know, you have a community of Real Madrid fans, you have a community of Barcelona fans, you have a community of Manchester United fans. They form a community. They have a common purpose. They probably have a common language, but they also fit into the overall community, which is football. And even though we may have certain rivalries, what we do is that we come together. I mean, we've got the Euros coming up, which is where the teams from the different countries will play against each other. But you get what you're getting is there is a community of people. And that's where you get this commonality of thought. And that commonality could be people thinking and want to understand about marketing or Internet of Things or Bitcoin or whatever. And what happens is that people on the internet and on social can come together in certain communities and exchange ideas.
Okay. And regarding lawyers, for example, how would you, what would you say? A community for people in legal services?
Well, there's certain things in legal services where there's certain niches where people can get together and exchange ideas, and community is also bringing people together. You know, just like I talked about driving you to a place where there's your prospects. There's some commonality between all those people, whether they work in a certain area or work in a particular vertical. The community is the thing that binds them together, and that exchange of information, that exchange of the fact that we're all the same, and we all can work together with some common objective.
Okay. And Tim, how do you think social will develop regarding how business use it in the future?
Well, we see social being rolled out across the whole of the organization. In social, in my book, Social Selling, I talk about just the sales department, but social is applicable in human resources, in supply chain, in procurement, customer service, across the whole of the business. And using social media across the business enables you to actually lower the cost of things and increase the efficiency and the effectiveness. And right now, in the global pandemic, we're all looking at ways to save money, and social across the organization is the way that you could save money. An example of that, I've got a client in North America. They no longer spend money on advertising, recruitment advertising, and they don't spend any more money on recruiters anymore because they don't need to, because what they're doing is that they've empowered their people to be on social, and actually the recruitment and the connection with people takes place online on social media.
Okay. And how important is social for businesses today? Is there another option instead of social?
We've seen a massive transformation away from old legacy sales and marketing techniques like cold calling and advertising and email marketing. And all of those things are interruption based, where you have to go up to somebody and interrupt them before you can then, in effect, pitch what you're going to do. And that's not how people buy anymore. People buy by searching themselves. They're proactive in the way they're searching. They're using their network. They're using content that's being served up to them. So there's a complete different way of buying. We see certainly for the next 10 years, social media as being the place where buyers will come and congregate, and that will be the place where people will make buying decisions.
Okay, and perhaps social is not relevant for legal firms. What do you think about it, Tim?
We've not found a vertical yet where social isn't applicable. In fact, legal firms, professional services, they've always bought and sold through being social. There was always meetings of people where there would always be a lawyer, external meetings, various clubs where you would have lawyers. Lawyers are social, and really when they talk about social media, actually what we need to be thinking about is the way that they've always worked, which is we have face-to-face conversations with people, but what we're doing now is that we're doing that in a digital form. And certainly we're seeing from our clients in professional services, we thought that the whole market would be very conservative, but actually the whole market is really just about moving from analog to digital. So I mean, Merrill Lynch, Bank of America, Merrill Lynch have now banned all cold calling, and they've moved all of their demand gen now to social. And they've been very public in the fact that they get a far better response through using social than using techniques like cold calling. So, if a conservative financial services organization like Merrill Lynch can say that they've made the switch to social, then I'm sure most businesses within professional services, if not, they should be following suit, because Merrill Lynch don't make a decision like that. Oh, we're just going to do that. They have the data. They've gone to the market and said, we have the data. We know that being on social gets us more business than doing what we were doing before. And when organizations as big as Merrill Lynch do that, it changes the market. Everybody has to follow suit, because Merrill Lynch is now at the point and driving the market.
And do you think social selling is only possible on LinkedIn?
No, social selling is really a state of mind. It's a technique. And it's about using different social media platforms. At the end of the day, you need to go where your clients are. And in most cases, in professional services, in law, your clients will be on LinkedIn. But you will also see them on Twitter, probably on Instagram. To a lesser extent, they may be on Clubhouse or on TikTok, but certainly from a LinkedIn, Instagram, Twitter perspective, you will find your clients there, yeah.
Okay, so Tim, I really thank you for this amazing interview. I would like to know if you have some final words that you would like to share with our audience, with our followers.
I think that first and foremost, the world has changed, and I think that what we do here at DLA Ignite, what we've tried to do is put together supporting material which actually educates people around how the market has changed, what buyers are doing externally, and the conclusions that they're jumping to about you, and what you can do as an individual and as a company to make sure that people are finding you and they're jumping to the right conclusions. At the end of the day, as I said, being on social is about driving commercial interactions, so sales, and everything you do on social should be able to do that. But we've put together a plan that it's not about pitching our services. It's a 30-minute presentation where we take you through where people are, the changes that you can make, and provide people with an educational process of understanding the fact that the world has changed and what they need to do to catch up.
Excellent. Again, thank you very much, Tim.
You're welcome, Lorena.
For your time, and we'll keep in touch. Thank you very much, Tim.
Thanks, Lorena. Bye.
Bye. Thank you.